What's the dumbest thing you've ever seen someone do to get out of taking a test? I was a sophomore in high school when Kevin, the class clown who had never opened a textbook a day in his life, decided that the biology final was the perfect hill to fake dying on. Mrs. Patterson was handing out test booklets when Kevin shot up from his chair with a look so theatrical it belonged on a daytime soap opera, clutching his stomach and groaning like he was auditioning for a role in a plague documentary, and he announced in this shaky voice that he must have eaten something bad at lunch and felt like he was going to pass out at any moment. Instead of simply going to the nurse like any normal person would have done, he launched into a wildly elaborate improv performance that dragged on for a solid 10 minutes while the entire class watched in stunned silence. He started wiping his forehead with trembling hands and then dramatically collapsed sideways into the empty desk next to him, knocking over a calculator and sending pens skidding across the linoleum like he was in a scene from a disaster movie. And Mrs. Patterson just stared at him, with the deadest expression I have ever witnessed on a human face, without saying a single word for about 5 agonizing seconds. Kevin, clearly interpreting her silence as a sign that his Oscar-worthy performance was working, decided to crank it up to 11, and started making these weird choking sounds, while rolling his eyes so far back I could only see white, and that is when I began seriously questioning all my life choices, because I had been paired with this guy for the semester-long frog dissection project, and I was now looking at 2 potential casualties instead of 1. But then something shifted. Kevin's fake choking turned into real gagging. His face went from theatrical red to genuinely pale, and without any warning whatsoever, he projectile vomited all over Mrs. Patterson's desk, covering the unopened exam booklets in what looked like half-digested cafeteria pizza and chocolate milk. The entire classroom erupted into absolute chaos, with kids screaming and scrambling away from their desks, while Mrs. Patterson slowly backed away with her hands raised, like she was trying not to spook a wild animal, and they had to call the janitor and evacuate the room, and obviously cancel the exam entirely, pushing it to the following week, with a collective groan from everyone who had actually studied. But here is the part that still makes me laugh years later. Kevin was not faking at all. He had been so terrified of failing the exam that he convinced himself the only way out was to get sick, so he dug an expired energy drink out of the bottom of his backpack and chugged it during lunch, thinking the caffeine would help him study. But it just sat in his stomach fermenting like a science experiment gone wrong, until his body finally decided to reject it in the most spectacular way possible. He literally stress-poisoned himself into vomiting on the teacher and postponing the entire exam, and in doing so, he became a school legend, the kid who weaponized his own digestive system against the education system, and somehow won the week. The best part is that he actually used that extra week to study and passed with a C-, which is probably the greatest victory of his entire academic career. So tell me, what is the dumbest thing you have ever done to try getting out of something you really did not want to do?